G'day, everyone. And what a lovely day it is. Man, I have had a absolutely fantastic Sunday today. I have just spent the day with my good friend Thor. You might know him as Red Pill Thor. He's been on this channel. I've had him on. I've interviewed him. He's out here in California as well. And we just spent the entire day firing off some rounds of ammunition, having a fantastic time shooting some pistols and some rifles and knocking down some targets. And yeah. And then indulging in some axe throwing and some bow and arrow shooting. And then finishing it off, topping it all off with a lovely roast beef dinner. Oh boy. You can't really top that. Greetings from Paris, Jules. Good to see you. Welcome to the chat. If we get enough people jumping in the chat, I might even show you some clips from what we got done today. But the topic of today's little live stream is this idea that goes around about what high value guy is, right? And a lot of dudes have a very different concept of this. A lot of dudes, if you ask 30 different, if you ask 100 different dudes, what's a high value man? Or you might rephrase it, what's an alpha man? And you'll get about 100 different answers. Because guys tend to define what a high value guy is based upon what they are. They try to project it based upon their own characteristics and their own characteristics, strengths, and not their weaknesses. Right? So, how does one kind of define what a high value man is, right? And look, if you're listening right now, people in the chat, I want you to drop in the chat. Give me some examples of character traits or personality traits or attributes that you think define what a high value man is, right? Or if you're watching this on the replay, leave it in the comments section below. Because I want to see what the general viewership, what kind of traits they would define that way. Because I think there is genuinely an underlying common theme amongst any trait that you can list as being high value, right? So what kind of things would people typically say, right? They're probably going to say wealth. They're probably going to throw out wealth, right? High income, lots of money, right? They're probably going to throw out works for themselves. They're probably going to throw out something along the lines of has a degree of economic freedom in terms of where they can work, when they can work, who they choose to work for, right? Interesting. Islander says knowledgeable. It's an interesting answer. What does Udaman say? Welcome back, Udaman. Good to see you, mate. He says physically fit. Cool. High social status. Cool. Money. Yep. Okay. What I am, any answer, anything you type in the chat right now, I can basically guarantee I can tie it back to the same concept. And that concept is freedom. I would argue that what defines a high value man is his level of freedom. Or to phrase it differently, it would be his ability to live the way he wants, to live on his own terms, right? To live a life of his own design. That's probably a better way of phrasing it. The ability to live a life of your own design, right? Now, if we take all these things, let's just take the few examples we've got already in the chat. Okay. Physically fit. How would that tie back into freedom? How would that tie back into the ability to live a life of your own design? Well, if you're physically fit, you're able to run around, explore this world, do things, do physical activities that a not physically fit person, aka a fat bastard, is not able to. They're not able to climb a mountain. They're not able to go on a hike. They're not able to run a marathon if they choose to. They're not able to compete in athletic events if they choose to. They're not able to spar and fight. Oops, there's my camera. If they choose to. All right. So there's an element of freedom tied into being physically fit. You're free to be able to move in this body and use this meat carcass that we're locked into in any way, shape, or form you desire. Right. That is a degree of freedom. If you think about it, someone who is not even, say, physically handicapped, but just someone who is not physically fit and is physically restrictive in their form, they lack the capacity to express themselves that a more physically fit person has. Right? Let's move on to the next example. Money, right? Obviously, having money, having wealth, right? Having a high income gives you freedom in multiple ways. Gives you freedom in terms of the things you can purchase. Gives you freedoms in terms of literally the life you can build around you. In terms of the home you live in, the car you drive, the places you visit, the places you travel to, where you live. Gives you freedom in terms of it might give you freedom in terms of when and where you choose to work. Now, obviously, some people have more freedom in this aspect than others, right? A doctor, for example, is tied to one physical location, whereas like an online entrepreneur has the ability to basically work from where the hell they like. How else does money impact this, right? So we talk about what you can buy, what the things you can add to your life and create to your and basically the lifestyle you can create, right? It adds to your ability to do and enjoy various activities that the average person cannot. All right? And it also probably buys you, having high income and having wealth, probably buys you a degree of time freedom. You don't necessarily have to be working 8 hours a day, 5 to 7 days a week. All right. Now, what else do we have here? High social status. How does that play into freedom? How does that play into the ability to design, the ability to live a life of your own design? Well, when you have high social status, you can network, you can get into places that other people can't. You get access to special favors from other high status people that most people don't. Right? You're starting to see the pattern here, right? High social status allows you to network and add to your social circle people that are not otherwise accessible to the average person. Let's take Ireland as an example here. Knowledgeable, right? How does that tie into freedom and the ability to build a life of your own design? Well, consider the opposite. Consider someone who is not knowledgeable. Consider someone who is lacking in diversity of knowledge, lacking in wisdom. They don't have the means to create a life of their own design. However, if you're knowledgeable about different things in the world, if you're knowledgeable about, something as simple as how to make money, then obviously it lends to adding more degrees of freedom. If you're knowledgeable about male-female dynamics, it creates infinitely more freedom and the ability to live a life of your own design. Okay? If you're knowledgeable about a certain topic, then you're able to design your life around that certain topic. Going back to the example of a doctor, to take one real-world example we've already mentioned. Let's keep going down the list here, guys. So for those who are tuning in just now, I just asked before, what are some traits that you would define, what are some traits that you would use to define a high value man? And so I'm going through some examples here in the chat right now. And I'm making the argument that I can tie anything you throw in here that you would typically say, okay, that's an alpha trait, an alpha behavior, or a high value trait for a man. I believe I can tie any of these back to fundamentally freedom and more importantly, the ability to live a life of your own design. I think that is fundamentally what makes a man high value. Here's a good one from Arden. I was going to say the ability to keep his family safe when the zombies attack. Well, that's actually a little bit different from physically fit, I'd say, Arden. So I'm glad you mentioned it. So I would say the ability to defend oneself, and let's call this the capacity for violence, because this tends to encompass quite a lot of traits that people would tend to throw at an alpha male or a high status male. So it might be, say, a professional boxer or a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, an MMA fighter, or it might be, say, a Navy SEAL. Take someone like Jocko Willink, for example. No one would deny that man is high value, right? Or someone who is basically just proficient in self-defense, or proficient in using a firearm, using a handgun, proficient in home defense, whatever it might be, right? I would still argue that is related to the ability to live a life of your own design, because you have the capacity for violence. So there's nothing more the opposite of living a life of your own design than having someone physically imposing their will on you. If someone is able to physically dominate you, be it through jiu-jitsu or by punching you in the face or by trying to rob you or break into your house and steal your shit, that is the complete opposite of living a life of your own design. However, if you have the capacity for violence and the ability to defend yourself and to defend your loved ones, then you are able to reinforce and hold on to the life that you have built of your own design. So again, I can tie all this back. Keep throwing them at me. I like this. William has said, emotional maturity and being secure in oneself. I can still throw this back to freedom and the ability to design a life of your own, the ability to live a life of your own design. Emotional, let's look at this stuff, right? So emotional freedom, let's just start with that. Emotional freedom, right? This you might call, emotional maturity is what you phrased it as. You might call that stoicism. You might call that the ability to control one's own emotions. All right? What's the opposite of that? The opposite of that is being an emotional wreck, as in being like a leaf in the wind, being blown around constantly by the tides of life. Someone who does not have emotional maturity and control of their emotions is quite literally living a life that is not their own design, because they're reacting. They're constantly just in reaction to everything that is going on around them. So if you have emotional security, if you have the ability to control your own emotions, then you indeed have the ability to craft a life of your own design. All right? Because you're not at the whim of your emotions. You're not at the whim of the way you react to various stimuli. You're able to receive stimuli from the world and then process it and act accordingly. Act in a way that is more beneficial to you and the way you want to live life and the life you want to design. All right? Good evening, everyone. Wally Yella, good to see you again. Anadu, good to see you. Where we at? Great example, you demand. Okay, is that another thing? Good social skills with women, aka known as game, right? Obviously, this lends to building a life of your own design, because what's one of the most common frustrations men have? It is women and a lack of women in their life, a lack of sexual abundance, right? If I asked you right now, if you could wave a magic wand and design your perfect life, design the life you want to be living, I guarantee it would involve lots of sexy women, right? And who actually what kind of men actually have the capacity to have lots of beautiful, sexy women in their life, to have sexual options? Well, it's guys who have game. It's guys who are good with women. It's guys who understand male-female dynamics. It's guys who can give a woman that emotional roller coaster. And this, obviously, means you have the ability to create a life of your own design. It all ties back to this, in my opinion. This is an interesting question, Alex. Good point. Very, very interesting. Very interesting question. This is great. This is a great chat already. You guys, you're giving me some fantastic stuff here. I love it. How famous can a man get before his freedom is no longer there? How much fame is too much fame? Well, the thing with fame is you have to have fame without any money is a son of a bitch, because you don't get any. Well, with fame, okay, you can fame, social status, however you want to describe it, right? You can probably definitely, I'd say it's very easy for you to get sexual abundance with that. However, as you've mentioned, right, when people start invading your privacy, you can't really go anywhere without crowds of people coming over to you and trying to get your attention and get an autograph or take a photo with you or whatever. Without the ability to separate yourself from that, as most celebrities do through money. So take, for example, Hollywood celebrities, right? They live in exclusive neighborhoods. They have their own private drivers. They walk around with security, these kind of things, right? To create more privacy for themselves. So let's take an example of someone who perhaps was famous, but their career collapsed and they don't really have much. They don't really have the money necessarily anymore to create that distance, right? Who would be a good example? Maybe someone like Pauly Shore. You remember him from Encino Man? What else was he in? Encino Man and was it Dome World? No. Yeah, that. What movies were he in? Pauly Shore. What else was he in? Encino Man and Biodome. That's crap. That movie. Okay, so because I know somebody who's bumped into him in the last couple of years. Was it like the peak of fame? You could easily have argued at his peak he was a high value man, right? Status, money, had a lot of stuff going for him, right? And then his status has dropped. He's still got that fame. He's still recognized as Pauly Shore, but the money's kind of dried up a bit, right? And the career's dying, so his status is going down with that. You know? Very, very good question, Alex. Very good question. Wally Ella says, vulnerability. I would disagree. I would not say vulnerability is a character trait, an attribute of a high value man. No, I would not say that. I would say I would say invulnerability is a character trait of a high value man. Someone who is impenetrable, someone who is impervious to harm, be that obviously not physically, but emotionally. I'd say invulnerability is the trait of a high value man. I would not say vulnerability is the trait of a high value man. Because, look, this is an argument of that's kind of the take that feminists would try to push on dudes. It's like, oh, real men express their emotions. How many times have we heard that, right? Well, you try this experiment on for size. Just Start crying randomly into your girlfriend's arms one day. See if her vagina gets wet doing that. It's not gonna. Newsflash. It's not gonna get wet doing that. And unfortunately, she's probably gonna lose all respect for you after that immediately. So, yes, well, I would disagree with you. I would disagree with you there. Miller, good to see you. Shozan, welcome back to the chat. Good to see you again, sir. I call it being unchained. I think we agree with each other. Work for yourself, not chained to a boss or a business. Owning your own property. Yep. Not chained to a mortgage or to rent. Obviously, these are goals that haven't. Obviously, these are goals. Haven't done them all yet. Yes. So, again, if anyone is tuning in just now, I am proposing the hypothesis that the single defining factor that kind of links, if you list, and this is why people are listing things in the chat right now, if you list something in the chat that you would consider to be a trait, a character trait, a personality trait, an attribute of a high value man, an alpha male, if you will, I can guarantee I can link it back to the concept of freedom, aka the ability to design a life of your own design, the ability to live a life of your own design. So that's what Shozan is sort of getting at here. Yeah, again, good example. Yeah, being a player, a video star, not being chained to only one woman. That is freedom. That is options, as we might say. When you have a casting couch in the background to flex how high value you are. This is a green screen, just so everyone's perfectly aware. I don't live in this casting couch area. This is not my house. Where did we get to? Yeah, good example, Wally. Yes. Brendan Fraser, the guy who played the mummy, and he got divorced and a divorce raped hard, yes. Unfortunately, he did. And he was huge. But we're talking about like celebrity stuff here. But that's very much like up and down. It's the whims of Hollywood. There's not that many celebrities who've sort of been super high status their whole career. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio, George Clooney, couple. Like most Brad Pitt, most other actors have ups and downs. I mean, look at Johnny Depp. Like he's currently going through a really shitty place right now. I forgot who I was watching. I think it was Steph's Cold. He said that before you become a true alpha, you have to be okay with being alone. Being alone equals dealing with your emotions and not needing anyone. So there's an argument here, and I'm glad you bring this up. You guys are giving us some. This is great conversation. I like this, guys. This is really good back and forth. Keep it up. So there's that argument of like, there's one school of thought of being like, being a sovereign man, being an island, being able to stand on your own 2 feet as an individual and not needing anybody else. And I'm going to make kind of a contradictory statement here because I would agree that that is indeed the trait of a high value man. However, contradictory to that, another very common trait of high value men is their network, their tribe, their soldiers. Right? The men they surround themselves with, the people they surround themselves with, their support networks, allow them to achieve more. You will always be able to achieve more with a tribe of loyal people than you will on your own. So, how do these two ideas kind of meld together? Well, you basically, the idea of being of building yourself into like the sovereign man, the man who does not need anyone else, is, I consider it to be, that's the backup plan for the worst case scenario of your tribe of men disbanding, maybe all dying, being arrested. I don't know. Like the worst case scenario of you've been separated forcibly from the tribe you've created, the network of men you've created, and thus you are now able to stand on your own 2 feet, you might not be as strong as you were, but you're not hopeless being on your own. That's kind of how I would blend those two together right there. Correct, Rubik. Where are you here? You made a very good point. Yeah, women don't want emotionally available men, even if they say they do. Correct, my friend. Correct. This idea of emotion. What does that even mean? Like, that's such a woman phrase too. I'm not having a go at you, by the way, Rubik. I'm just saying this lexicon. I want a man who's emotionally available. What does that even mean? Emotionally available. Yeah. Like, because men have emotions. Anger is an emotion. Anger is an emotion men are told to repress. But it's a perfectly valid emotion. And you should be getting angry at shit. Especially when your freedoms are being imposed on. David, what David said. He would define alpha as the power to influence his environment. That's basically along the same lines of what I'm saying here. Yeah. Qualities would be skills to affect change, knowing what to do, and the will to do it. That last bit is something we haven't talked about yet. The will to do, the will to act. You might call it the ability to, like, the consistently taking right action. Consistently taking action that leads you towards your goals and the life of your own design. Yeah, men who don't sit around and wait for things to happen, right? You look at any guy you would define as high value as alpha. He is an action taker. He is someone who gets shit done, right? And how else are you able to you're not able to build a life of your own design unless you are consistently taking action. So, good stuff. Black Sheep, good to see you again. Alan Martinez says being independent. We kind of touched on that a minute ago with the idea of being like a sovereign man. And I agree, you know, that is absolutely a character trait of a high value man. Because I balance it with, I fundamentally believe men need a tribe, and they thrive, and they feel more fulfilled when they're in a tribe of like-minded men. Ooh, here we go. We're coming into my territory. Being good in bed and taking charge, not being a passive lover. Yep. Well, because what is being passive, right? What is being dominant? Being dominant is, especially, you know, in this context in the bedroom, being dominant is leading. Is choosing a direction and going for it. Right? Being the opposite of that, being passive, is waiting for things to happen to you. Right? Letting somebody else design the outcome, design the event that is going to happen. Right? Here we go. Independence, financial freedom, and a harem make you an alpha man. Well, all these things, you're laughing at it, but all these things indicate freedom. Right? Obviously, financial freedom, and having a harem, having options. Right? This is all degrees of freedom in your life. I managed a full wrist bra. Yep. That is a green screen. Yep, the wizard, welcome back. We did touch on this at the very beginning. Yes, how healthy someone is, both physically and mentally. Yeah, physical health is a fundamental part of freedom. Because if you could have a heart attack and a stroke any minute, if you get your heart rate up too high. Let's use that as let's use a couple of examples here. If you have bad cardiovascular health, and by going for a jog you're going to have a heart attack and fall over, that's not a very free. You wouldn't really define that as a very free existence, would you? It's very constrictive. Another example would be someone who has diabetes. If you've eaten like shit and you've gone from being pre-diabetic to being diabetic, you've now restricted the types of foods you can eat. You now have to live your life with insulin on standby just to stop yourself from dying. Again, this is a very constrictive way to live, the opposite of freedom. Where did we get to? And I said, what is your opinion on the difference between in being alpha and high value? I saw other people answer this where you can be one without the other, but not the way around. Look, if I had to like make a difference between it, alpha would be like behavior traits, and high status would be like situational traits. You can have both, or they can be mutually exclusive. So like a behavioral game is typically what you would call like behavioral traits, whereas like high status would be something like money. Right? If I had to separate the two, I don't think you really have to, though. I think the two can be used interchangeably, to be honest. Excellent, excellent. Well, that's good. The the live streams do not have a specific schedule. It's just whenever I happen to be not on set and in front of this camera. So there we go. Yes, my Suleiman, the last couple of streams have been flagged with some warning label. So I think it's because of the green screen. I think we figured it out. So we're just gonna have to stick to the casting couch from now on. All right. Here you go, Williella. So not being able to be vulnerable because there are women involved doesn't seem alpha to me. Not being able to be vulnerable. Why does being defined alpha have to do with your skilling in women rather than helping people? It doesn't necessarily mean that. It's one of the... well, look. I don't think you could really call a man an alpha male or a high status male if he didn't have sexual options. I don't think you could call him that. However, I would also agree that the ability to help others is absolutely a high status trait. It's like your cuppeth overflow. You have so much abundance, aka freedom, that you're, in terms of, say, energy or resources or whatever, or skills, that you're able to use those to help others. That's absolutely a trait of a high value man, because it exhibits abundance, which is a form of freedom. So absolutely, I'm not disagreeing with you there at all. But you mentioned the first part of your statement. So you actually bring up something interesting. You're talking about being vulnerable around women, right? Now, there is the only time that a man, and I've come to this conclusion, that the only time that it is appropriate for a man to show vulnerability and let his guard down is around his close compatriots, of his male close, basically his boys, his male tribe. And not when the shit is hitting the fan, most importantly. You don't want to be the guy that cracks under pressure because you're letting your tribe down. Right? But I wouldn't say that makes, like, being able to confide in your brothers, your band of brothers, being able to confide in your band of brothers is the luxury of having a band of brothers. I wouldn't say that it makes you high status or low status. Just the act of doing it. It's probably more to do with where you're coming from, right? Insecurity isn't a high value trait, right? So if by saying expressing vulnerability, if what you actually mean is expressing insecurities, then that's not a high status thing. If when you talk about expressing vulnerability, you mean things like going to your band of brothers for advice because you're not certain about the correct course of action. Okay, you could call that vulnerability because you don't know everything. You could call that. Alex Schmidt says, I think being vulnerable and even better at times and still keeping your frame is a trait of a high value man. That's not really keeping your frame though. If you're being, but that's a bit of an oxymoron, right? I don't see how you can be like beta and still keeping your frame, because by virtue of being beta, you're by default you're falling into someone else's frame. But you can, like I said, we might, if you want to go further down this rabbit hole, we might kind of define what you mean by vulnerable, right? Yeah, so the bit, like if we're talking about being vulnerable in terms of confiding in others, letting your hair down, like expressing like, oh man, this thing really pissed me off, or whatever it might be, then this is something you do with your bros, your close band. This is why it's important to have a tribe of men. Doing this with women has zero benefit whatsoever. They don't give a shit. They do not. Women do not care about your struggles. They're not like, they will lose respect for you for doing it, right? It does not help you in any way, shape, or form. That's why you have your boys. That's what your band of brothers is there for. When a woman says, show your emotions, tell me when things are wrong, in boxing language, it means lower your guard so it's easy to get to you. Dude, this is actually, you've hit on something really important here, because like, look, you got, like, what women say and what women do are two completely different things. So when a woman says, oh, you know, you need to be more vulnerable, blah, 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 she's actually just like she might, I'm not saying they're doing this consciously. This is like an unconscious thing, but they're looking for chinks in your armor. And what you'll see is that next time, if you do express this, show me some emotion, let me hear about your feelings, blah, blah, blah. The next time you're in an argument, she sure as hell will be using that as ammunition to poke at your soft spots. I guarantee it, unfortunately. But that's just the nature of the beast, okay? I'm not hating here. This is just the way things are. You know? Being a risk taker? Absolutely. A calculated risk taker. Being a calculated risk taker is extremely attractive. High status trait, right? Because the calculated part is important, because it means you're able to assess danger, you're able to assess potential risk, and come out on top after the fact. Yeah, good point. So you'd say showing your emotions and being able to be vulnerable are two different things, right? Yeah, I mean, getting angry is different from being vulnerable, absolutely. But I'm still not sure what you mean by vulnerability. Well, yeah, maybe give me like a contextual example. That might help. Oh, where we get to? Damn diabetes, correct. Yes, damn diabetes. What kind of mic is this? This is a Shure mic. Do alpha men pay for sex, or is that beta? Should sex be free or come with high value behaviors? Well, a man who are high status alpha dudes have sexual options, right? So they don't need to pay for sex. Simple as that. All right. Well, this is a good one. This is a new one. Also, a trait that goes into your freedom idea is that a man who doesn't have limiting beliefs, he sets out to accomplish what his dreams are. Very good example. Very, very good example. Yes. W quad. Nice work. Yeah, right, because eliminate, like, your mental beliefs, right? Your mental belief structure. Yeah, we haven't even talked about this yet. Well done. I'm glad you brought this up. Your mental belief structure dictates what you believe is what is possible. Like, okay, here's a good example from me, right? I fundamentally believed it was possible for me, a random dude in buttfuck nowhere, Western Australia, to get into the porn industry and end up working on the other side of the planet in Los Angeles. I fundamentally believed that that was possible. If I could break it down into a step-by-step plan and execute on it, that I would get there. You know? Same way I believe that it is entirely possible for me to have to create a harem of 4 to 5 women and have about a dozen kids and live happily ever after with my harem. I fundamentally believe this is an achievable goal. So I'm going to go about and execute on that goal. Very, very good example. Warhammer Tactics with Pigeon. What a great name. Being competent at your skill set, preferably more than everyone else in your domain. Yeah. We'd call that, if anyone is familiar with Jack Donovan's work, he would basically call that mastery of a skill set. Yep. And that obviously, like, if you have competency in certain areas of your life, then you can exercise those competencies and create stuff. Right? Oops, where do we get to? Bulboo, good to see you, mate. Good start to Monday. Well, for me, it's Sunday, so depending upon where you are. Yeah, Rubik agrees with me here. Share your insecurities and vulnerable with your buddies, not with women. I agree. I mean, that's what I just said, but yeah. Shows that, and that's why in the black community, we'll just tell the woman, I'm all right. If your woman knows something's wrong, but sees you blow it off like it's nothing, she'll be hella wet. You see this again and again and again. I see that. I see that in dudes in the black community. Yeah. Barry says, it's funny how men act macho around other men, but cry around women. It should be the complete opposite. Don't cry around your wife. Yeah, I mean, look at this from her perspective, right? You're if you're married to a chick or you're partnered up with a chick, right? You're the person who, like, if someone kicks in the door and is threatening your safety, right? So you're being burgled or whatever the hell. If this ties back into being emotionally stable, being in control of your emotions, being cool, calm, and collected. If you're the guy who is like running and screaming like a chicken with its head cut off when someone barges in the door, both you and your wife are in serious danger. And this is kind of where and again, this is probably not a conscious thought they're having, but this is where their subconscious primal brain goes when you start showing these kind of insecurities and like crying and shit around women. They're like, this guy is gonna crumble under the pressure of imminent violence if I'm in trouble. Sometimes they might think that consciously, but it's an unconscious thing that happens in the back of their head. It's a good question. What's your view on lying and being truthful? Would only doing one or the other be detrimental in life? Only doing one. Yes, absolutely. The extremes, you're not going to get anywhere with extremes. If you always lie, no one's going to ever trust you, and you're never going to be able to form any meaningful connections, friendships, relationships, networks. If you're always telling the truth, again, you're never going to be able to form. It's going to be a hell of a lot harder for you to form connections and networks because you're going to be constantly offending people. Absolutely. So obviously, the sweet spot's right in the middle. There's an interesting. This is a cool thing to bring up. Look up the concept of what was it called? Absolute honesty, brutal honesty, honesty. What is it called? No. It's a movement where you tell the truth 100%. Tell truth. Of the time. What was it called? There was a movement. There's a guy who did this. Dang. maybe it's brutal honesty. Movement. Radical. That's the word I'm looking for. Radical honesty. This is the one. Yeah. This is the concept. Cool. So this is a really interesting thing. This happened years ago. I don't know if the guy's still around. So this guy came up with this concept of radical honesty, and the principle was, okay, for like the next, and you probably don't do it forever, but radical honesty was for 30 days you say exactly what is on your mind at all times, and you don't lie, and you always express what's on your mind. And like people who started doing it would like their relationships just ended because they were constantly telling like, I hate the way you I don't like the way you dress, that meal tastes absolutely terrible, you smell right now, like all this kind of shit, like just pissing people off left, right, and center. So that's what happens on the other extreme when you're brutally honest. So there you go. Yeah, Radical Honesty was the book. That's correct. I didn't read the book. I just, Silverman, I didn't read the book. I just, I saw some interviews with the guy, so I was familiar with the concept. Yeah. Wait, where was it? Imagine the fireworks. Does that dress make me look fat? Yes. Get your ass to the gym. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah. All right, Anadu comes up with an interesting counterpoint. How can we have a good relationship if we're not able to express it to our women? Express what, exactly? Your job is to lead in a relationship. A good relationship is when the guy is leading the woman through life. When the guy is the captain of the ship. That's a good relationship. The guy takes charge, takes responsibility, and is the captain of the ship. Right? He has responsibility, but he also has the authority. That's a very important distinction there. That is a good relationship. I'm not sure what you mean, Anadu, when you say, how can we have a good relationship if we're not able to express it? What exactly is the it that you're referring to here? You know. Where do we get to? This is what bear. I'm assuming if you're talking about, you know, maybe your vulnerabilities and your insecurities. If that's what you're referring to, then the way you get that out with your bros. Around your woman, you are like you're solid as a rock, right? You're unwavering. Doesn't mean you don't express emotion. Like, look, laughter is an emotion. Like, happiness is an emotion. It doesn't mean you don't ever. Doesn't mean you're a robot. You never express emotion. I'm saying you don't express these insecurities and these vulnerabilities. Right? That's where I'm coming from. You know, and it doesn't mean you don't express negative emotions to your woman either, because you want to give her this up and down roller coaster, right? If she does something to piss you off, if she does something wrong, she needs to know it, right? You need to correct her if she's acting out. So, remember when rappers would talk not eating the box back in the day? Well, male subculture seemed to downplay pleasuring women in foreplay. What made things change? I honestly haven't really noticed much of a shift, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Like, women have always bragged about dudes who are good in bed. You know? They've always bragged about them to their girlfriends, and then sometimes their girlfriends fuck the dude as well. So that's always been there. Blue Ball says, guys with autism tend to be too honest, speaking from my own experience. Well, yeah, I would agree with that. I know I have a couple of mates who are somewhat on the spectrum, and yeah, that's look, it can be a good thing in doses. Like being honest, like being brutally honest and unapologetic about your honest, and like being congruent with it, being unapologetic about it, is actually quite. I would argue that's a high status trait. Being unapologetic is the key part there. Right. Very good observation, you demand. I've had girlfriends say I don't show emotion, and so they create drama to get a reaction out of me. There's an important concept here. I'm glad you brought this up. There's an important concept here. It is called being in control of the roller coaster. So, and there's a few guys, like I think Ryan Stone has talked about this before. I think Abu American has talked about this before. If you're a bit of a stoic guy and you don't show much emotion, okay, it actually is beneficial for you to create drama every now and then, because you're the one that's in control of it. You don't want her being the one in control of it. If she tries to create drama and shit, the correct response is to ignore her. Because what she's doing there is trying to get your attention. She's trying to get, what she actually is trying to get is attention off of you. And if you give her attention when she acts out and creates drama, what are you reinforcing? You're reinforcing to her brain. It's like, oh, I get the thing I want, aka attention, when I act like a little bitch, when I act like a brat. I'm going to do more of that, because if I don't do that, he doesn't give me the attention I want, right? So you've got to reward her with the right stuff. Like when she's being nice and pleasant and cooking and cleaning and all this sort of stuff, that's when you give her all the attention. You reinforce the positive stuff, and you take away when she does the negative stuff. Yeah. But it is also important to create this sort of roller coaster of emotions, right? So but you want to be the one in control of the roller coaster. Oh, I missed this one from Barry Norton. Very good point here, Barry. Yeah, your wife is not your therapist, emotional tampon, or punching bag, and you're not your wife's emotional tampon either. Let's make that perfectly clear. Yeah. Yeah, she's not your therapist. That's for damn sure. You can express emotions like bravery, curiosity, positive emotions. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. These are all emotions you're expressing. Right? You're not the key thing here is that you're not expressing weakness, expressing emotions that are weakness. It doesn't help you in any way. It's, like it might. Yeah, I get it. It feels cathartic to get it off your chest. That's why I'm saying do it with the boys. Like, that's why you need men in your life. That's why you need a tribe of close men, right? So you can let that shit off your chest. Or if you have a sister, do it with your sister, But doing it with your wife, with your girlfriend, is never any benefit to it. Ever. Yeah, exactly. Anyone would love to be around a positive person rather than a negative person, in my opinion. Correct. Yeah. Mike Green, good to see you again, man. Like, yeah, I mean, this might be a bit of a controversial opinion, but I mean, look, autistic guys tend to be pretty like competent at like highly paid jobs, right? Like mathematicians, coders, physicists, But you do need emotional. You need the ability to read emotions as well, unfortunately. Is Jim Jeffries on the spectrum? Really? Wait, is that who I'm thinking of? Who's Jim Jeffries? Wait a minute. Jim, is he who I think it is? Oh, the Australian comedian. Is he really? Huh. That's news to me. I didn't know that. Damn. Yes, mystery, uncertainty. Yeah, that's a good example. A good example of being in control of the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster, right? Uncertainty does that. And so what you're doing here's another take on this, right? When you're there constantly like expressing your insecurities and your emotions and your feelings, you leave no mystery for her. When she's like, I wonder what he's thinking. I wonder if he still likes me. I wonder if he's like, that's a pretty important one. I wonder if he's still into me. When she is uncertain of that, it creates that emotional roller coaster that she needs. Yeah, autism, aka robotic, unemotional. Right? I'm not telling you guys to be unemotional. Let's make this perfectly clear. I think I've made myself perfectly clear, but if not, let me know. Where do we get to? David says, I believe Ryan Stone also mentioned the man preemptively creating drama over something meaningless to them in order to control the roller coaster. Exactly, yeah, that's a good example. Yeah. Yeah, something that's completely arbitrary to you, create emotion over it. It gives her the catharsis of having emotions that she needs. Listen to him drone on and makes me want to slap him. Jim Jeffries is a bit of a hypocrite, if I'm perfectly honest. He's a bit of a hypocrite. I have found all of his comedy quite funny, though. Yeah. Yes, indeedy. Okay, before we go, I'm going to wrap this up. Before we go, let me show you a quick video of what I got up to today. Because I spent, for those of you who have tuned in late, I spent all day today hanging out with my good friend Thor, also known as Red Pill Thor. He's been on this channel. I've interviewed him on this channel. Very, very good man. An example of what I would call a high value man, as a matter of fact. While we're at it, smash that like button. And if you're new to this chat, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And we're rapidly approaching 3,000 subs. Very happy with this. We're on the way. And this, if I can bring it up. Is this the one I'm looking for? Yes. Let me see. Excellent. See if I can bring this up for you all to watch. Share my screen. Share my entire screen. Boop. Alrighty. Boom. How's that look? Can we see this? Yes, excellent. You can see this. So this is what we got up to today. I went out and hung out with my buddy Thor. We went out and got shot some firearms. Let's see if this plays and you can hear it. No, it appears you cannot hear it. Why can't you hear it? How about that one? Dang, the audio isn't playing. That is really annoying. That is incredibly annoying. Well, stuff it. Okay, I posted a few of these videos from today on my Instagram. All right, so my Instagram is at Hooper Sterling. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So, go check out my Instagram stories from today instead, because for some reason I can't get this to play with the sound on right now. Do you realize we're looking at empty shelves at the gun store? Where is the ammo? Thor had a lot of ammo stocked up, so thank you very much, you demand. I have the outfit right here, as a matter of fact. Here's my hat. Yes. So I originally got this outfit to wear as my streaming outfit. And I think I might switch it up and just start wearing this this general's jacket. Where we go to? This stream was not autistic enough. Correct, Mike. Absolutely correct. But correct, John, right here. This man is indeed high value. But anyway, that'll do us for today, gentlemen. Nice comment. Yeah, I'm laughing too much for a Russian. Absolutely correct. Russian Chad versus Gladiator Chad. Turns out I'm a pretty damn good shot with a AR-15. As a matter of fact, go check out my Instagram story from today, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It is not, as a matter of fact, it is not. I got it off Etsy, so take that. All right, lads, this will take us out. You enjoy the rest of your evening or day, depending on what time zone you're in. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, fingers crossed, if all goes according to plan and she doesn't flake on us, we have the lovely Aiden Ashley coming in to chat for a new episode of Tales from a Hot Girl. So tune in tomorrow. Should be around about 12 o'clock. PST tomorrow. All right. See you then.